Now, we've been talking about Red Bull for some time, and I'm going to talk about Red Bull again today. And what we're going to discuss about is I want to analyze to you so that you can know what made Red Bull special this year, what gave them the advantage they had last year, and what made them special. Number one thing is one, you don't rest on your horse. Two, self belief. It works for some people, and for some people, it takes time, yet it still works for them. And number three, don't stop growing. Formula One teams have never stopped growing from time. They've always worked and put a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of development into their craft, and it has shown. And since Red Bull came in 2003, it has been bullish, and they've been part of the greatness of Formula One if we look at it. The trajectory of their growth perfectly smart. We can remember from 2010 to 2013, they won the championship. Hands down, they were so superb and they were so perfect, winning four straight championships that year. That might be the same case now, but we don't know what other teams are bringing up. And when you look at their car, I was looking at their 2019 car, the RB16 and below, and we can see that majorly if you look at it from the picture, the 2019 car, the front end is more lower, it's protruding, as in the front end look down and lower than the back end. The back end of the car is higher than the front end, and those times we were still having the higher rigged cars and the lower rigged cars. But the Red Bull was extremely higher, and they were able to use their front end to chase after, not just chase after, they were very competitive. In those years, they were not winning championship. They were third best team in the championship, and they gave the first two teams a run for their money. Now, when the new regulation came in 2020, and the regulations were not used in 2021 because of Corona in 2020, the development of 2020 was carried over into 2021. So the new development came into place, was really activated in 2022. Red Bull was critical with their design because of what they've learned over time. Mercedes was clearly critical with their design. Now, Mercedes was more bullish than Red Bull in their design. They took the design of the car more than the engineering aspect. They were more characterized by the outlook of the car, which they believe will give them more downforce. But I'm not sure they really got everything working right from the sim to the track, because if they got everything working with the way they have been winning races since 2014-15 season, it should have translated into what we will see on the track, and what we will so much respect or give respect to them, that these guys have really thrown their gauntlets down and they've really pushed beyond boundary. So what have they learned? They know that the 2014-15-16 season, that was when the engine was changed from the V12 to a V6 hybrid. Now, one thing they know, what they could get the nose of the car down and get a lot of downforce without the rear of the car down. Now, the cars are meant to go down. Now, they were able to go lower without bouncing, which is as a result of their floor. And in 2022, they were the first team to come out of the bouncing so smoothly. Their first testing in Barcelona, they were bouncing. But by the time they got to Bahrain, they had less bounce. By the time they got to the first race of the season, Red Bull had little or no bouncing. The bouncing, which I mean is the porpoising, that little or none of it. Ferrari were having it. Mercedes had a whole lot of it. Alpha Tauri, the sister team to Red Bull, had a whole lot of bounce. And for me, I know Alpha Tauri is just like a team Red Bull use for their correction. They use for their learning, so that they won't make mistakes. That is why they still are not selling that team, because they know that if they're selling that team, there will be a lot of things they won't get right. So leave that for another time. But they were able to turn their ideas into a drive. Now, they got the car down on the lower end, on the rear, and they're able to generate more performance. Now, Lewis Hamilton and a lot of people, even Ferrari, are saying, oh, that car is so fast. Even without DRS, that car is so fast. They were able to lower the car at the back with what they have in the front before. Now, they are the only team that are able to go even lower than other teams. That is, the front and the rear of the car can go very lower than other teams in F1 today. That is why they're able to generate more straight line downforce and cornering, because majorly to generate the downforce you need to be very fast, you need to have less drag, which means the floor of the car needs to be able to push the vortexes of the air out in the right direction so as to suck the car down without the car lifting up. And they got their rear suspension perfectly, and the front suspension, I think they are using push rod at the rear suspension and pull rod on the front suspension, and they were able to get it perfectly balanced. Unlike other years, they are so fast, as in they have gone like 10 times ahead of other teams in F1. If you compare them to the Ferrari had almost the same design in 2019-2018 season, but they were able to have their rear end a little bit lower than the Red Bull. So they were very competitive, and on most tracks, in most races, they are faster than the Red Bull. We know they are faster than the Red Bulls in those years because they can bring the rear end lower. But Mercedes, on the other hand, their rear end is so low. Not as low as it is now, but they have their rear end lower than every other team. So they could generate the downforce. Now, with that being said, now having much of the force on the rear end, a little of that front end, a little bit higher, Mercedes could not get the perfect recipe to make that car competitive. Mercedes, if you look at Mercedes, the rear end is so low, but when they are racing, their rear end is not as low as the Red Bull. Meanwhile, their front end is a little bit up, but on the Red Bull, the rear end is low, the front end is low. The front end may not be as lower as the rear end, but it can generate the right vortexes out of the floor to suck the car to the ground and make the car more balanced and the car not to be draggy or wavery or moving around. That is why on corners, on straight lines, the Red Bull are so grippy, they are so oldie, they are very beautiful to drive. The Red Bull is so beautiful to look at when driven. The Red Bull is very beautiful to look at. And that is why, for someone like me, I know they still have a lot of performance they are hiding because that car is fast. If the floor is perfect for aerodynamics, you still need the suspension to complement for it because the way the wind will blow or flow through the car has to be comprehended. It has to be perfect in the way it has to drive through the front suspension and through the rear suspension. They're able to get a car that both on the front, in the middle, and in the rear end is able to help them get the car lower when the car is moving to get the right downforce. Meanwhile, the Ferrari could not do that because the way their side pod is would not give them enough push down. Meanwhile, for the Mercedes, it is worse. For the Mercedes, it is worse. That design is beautiful, but that design is not giving them the right way to push that car down, to generate the right downforce they need to move forward. So I still say the Red Bull team has done a very fantastic job last season and this season. I give them a clap. And that is why Toto Wolff has admitted that fundamental of their design is total failure. And that is what is inhibiting them from winning races or being competitive. And that will affect them a lot this season. We hope they are able to bring right updates, right things, because if they're changing the concept of the side or the side of that car, it will cost them a lot and it will affect them into next year. But if they really want to bring a new car, it will give them a lot of pace in going into next year and become competitive like what Aston Martin did last year. They were so bullish and they changed their whole concept immediately to copy the Red Bull. By the middle of the season, they brought a new car entirely copying the Red Bull, and that car they were able to update, upgrade, learn, and that car became faster this year. That is why they are second in the championship and they are the second best in F1 right now. Red Bull, like I said, have done a pretty job, so we hope Mercedes will be able to do something like that. I'm not saying they should copy Red Bull, but they should they should be able to bring a design on board that will be very competitive or bring updates that would even make them competitive, even though not so competitive or not being able to compete with Red Bull this season because it's already a stolen away season. And like I said, the cost cap effect is not going to work on Red Bull because the penalties are just too lenient. They are not the right penalties. If they're giving them like 200 points deduction last year, millions of payment to make and no CFD, no wind tunnel time until middle of this season, it would have been competitive. It would have been the right call, but like many F1 teams were saying last season, it's not a penalty that will work for them at all. It's just a penalty just to make them feel that they've not done anything wrong. That being said, Red Bull is a team to beat this season in 2023, and that is the analysis of what makes them fast and what makes other teams not so fast. One, we're able to pinpoint how their flaw has helped them, the suspension and also the side pod and the side cover have been able to help them to become a faster car. Without picking the DRS, that car is fast, so we don't want to talk about the DRS now. They have a fundamental pace, a fundamental speed without the DRS. So bringing the DRS, they can generate even more than what we think they have, that 36 to 39 kilometers per hour, if they bring their engine to optimum performance. Thank you. My name is Oshfes Oluwadamilare. This is Exxon F1, also known as Formula 1 Column Africa. I'm a mechanic. Thank you. Oh! If you're a builder, if you're an art collector, if you have a showroom, Rated is the best place to get the artworks you need for your new buildings, for your art collections, for your showroom, for your exhibition. Rated Art have one of the best murals, mosaic works, and different art patterns in Nigeria presently. And it's somebody that you can communicate with, talks to you, you tell him what you want, and he will bring the reality out for you. To contact Rated Art, his number is right up here. And you can also go on social media links that are pasted right up here. So check out some of his works. Thank you. Teams Gadget. Teams Gadget is for those of you that cannot easily go to the market to get your phones, your laptops, your accessories. Just place a call through. His phone number is there. It gets you the best. It's your sure plug to get you the best phones, accessories, laptops, games, and other accessories for your computer gaming experience. Contact Teams Gadget and you get them for you.